To truly understand the Great Train Robbery of 1963, we need to set the stage. It was one of the most audacious heists in British history, a meticulously planned operation that saw a gang of men steal 2.6 million from a Royal Mail train, an amount equivalent to over 55 million today. Before diving into the intricate details of the robbery in later episodes, let's first explore the world in which this crime took place. The year was 1963, a period of significant change for Britain. The country was emerging from a shadow of post-war austerity, yet economic disparity still lingered. While some sectors of society were beginning to thrive, buoyed by the optimism of the swinging 60s, others struggled to find their footing. London, the epicentre of this shifting landscape, was a city of contrasts, vibrant and forward-looking in parts, but still gritty and rife with inequality in others. In the criminal underworld, a peculiar shift was occurring. The rigid hierarchies of gangsters like the Krays, who controlled their territories with brutal authority, contrasted sharply with the more fluid world of robbery. Firms or gangs were not permanent fixtures. Instead, they were often assembled for specific jobs, built around skills and connections. This was organised crime, but of a transient nature, men coming together for a single, lucrative operation before dispersing to pursue their paths. This environment was a breeding ground for ambitious criminals looking to make their mark. Crimes like armed robberies and smash and grab raids were becoming increasingly sophisticated, with gangs employing meticulous planning and leveraging inside knowledge to maximise their gains. Against this backdrop, the Great Train Robbery stood out, not just for its audacity, but for the way it epitomised this job-by-job approach to organised crime. The Great Train Robbery took place in the early hours of the 8th of August 1963, targeting the Glasgow to London Royal Mail train as it passed through rural Buckinghamshire. The gang executed a carefully coordinated plan to stop the train and steal its cargo of cash. Using a false signal to halt the train at a predetermined location, they overpowered the crew and unloaded 120 sacks of banknotes into waiting vehicles. The entire operation lasted less than an hour. What made the robbery extraordinary was not just the sheer amount of money stolen, but the precision in which it was carried out. The gang had spent months planning every detail, from the location of the heist to the logistics of transporting the stolen money. Their success was a testament to their organisation and expertise, a high-stakes gamble that for a brief moment paid off spectacularly. But this was only the beginning. The heist would go on to capture the imagination of the public and cement the robber's place in British criminal history. Now, let me introduce the men behind the heist, each a critical cog in the operation's intricate machinery. These are the individuals who come together, temporarily forming a formidable team to pull off one of the most infamous crimes in Britain. Born on the 7th of September 1931 at Charing Cross Hospital, Bruce Richard Reynolds' early life was marked by instability and hardship. When Bruce was just 4 years old, his mother Dorothy passed away, leaving him in the care of his father Thomas, and later a stepmother with whom he struggled to bond. As a child, he often found solace in the homes of his grandmothers, escaped the tensions of family life, and find a temporary refuge in their care. This fractured upbringing seemed to forge resilience and independence in Reynolds, but it also sowed the seeds of his eventual path into the criminal underworld. Schooling was sporadic, his disinterest in conventional education giving way to a fascination with rebellion. By his teenage years, he drifted into petty crime, a slippery slope that soon escalated. Reynolds' first stint in prison came early, with a 3-year sentence for breaking and entering. Far from rehabilitating him, incarceration served as an education. It was here, in the rigid, hierarchical prison system, that Reynolds owned the traits that would define him: patience, meticulousness, and ability to win people over with charm. Upon his release, Reynolds wasted no time returning to the life he started, only this time he sought to do it with greater sophistication. Teaming up with his best mate and future brother-in-law John Daly, Reynolds began working with Ernie Watts and Terry Hogan, notorious leaders of the South Western Gang. These seasoned criminals become his mentors, teaching him the nuances of planning and executing robberies with precision. In this apprenticeship, Reynolds learned the art of assembling teams tailored to specific jobs, a skill he'd later use. Bruce also collaborated with other notable figures in London's criminal underworld. Through the likes of Jimmy White and Buster Edwards, he navigated a network of thieves, forgers and fence operators. A significant introduction came via Charlie Richardson, a feared gangster who connected him to Gordon Goody, a partnership that would later become instrumental in planning the Great Train Robbery. Reynolds was no ordinary criminal. Unlike the brash violence associated with some contemporaries, his approach was more measured. He was cerebral, inspired by the stories of gentlemen thieves and Robin Hood-like figures. He saw crime as an art, an enterprise where planning, strategy and guile could outmatch brute force. With his sharp suits, quiet charisma and an air of self-assurance, he earned respect both within his circle and from those who hunted him. By 1963, Reynolds had already established himself as a seasoned thief, but his ambitions were growing, fueled by a desire for one job that would elevate him from mere criminal to a legend. That job, of course, was the Great Train Robbery. Reynolds was the mastermind who envisioned every detail. Bruce Reynolds was an architect of one of Britain's most daring crimes. While his vision paid off in the short term, the robbery would also bring him years of pursuit, exile and eventual capture. Yet even in defeat he remained larger than life, remembered not just for what he stole, but for how he orchestrated it, with a level of audacity and finesse that continues to captivate the imagination. Ronald Arthur Biggs was born on the 8th of August 1921 in Stockwell, South London. His early years were far from remarkable, though the Second World War shaped part of his childhood, seeing him evacuated first to Bedfordshire and later to Cornwall. Like so many working class lads of his generation, he faced a tough upbringing in post-war Britain, but wherever saw opportunity in honest work, Biggs seemed drawn to risk and rebellion. At 18, Biggs enlisted in the Royal Air Force, seemingly seeking structure and purpose, but that chapter of his life ended abruptly. He was soon dishonourably discharged for desertion just 2 years later after breaking into a chemist shop. It was the start of a life where brushes with the law become routine. After a string of convictions, including car theft and an unsuccessful attempt to rob a bookmaker's office, Biggs found himself incarcerated at HM Prison, Wandsworth. But it was there, behind bars, that his life took a decisive turn. He crossed paths with Bruce Reynolds, a man with big ideas and even bigger ambitions. Upon his release, Biggs seemed determined to leave his criminal past behind. He trained as a carpenter and married Charmaine Powell in 1960, starting a family with 3 sons. For a while it appeared he was building a new life, but financial struggles persisted, and with a growing family, Biggs needed more than an honest trade could provide. It was during this period that Biggs became inadvertently linked to the heist that would define his life. While working on the home of a train driver nearing retirement, known only by his aliases Stan Agate, Old Pete or Pop, Biggs made a connection that would prove pivotal. Recognising an opportunity, Biggs introduced the driver to Bruce Reynolds, and together they set the gears in motion for what would become one of the most audacious crimes in British history. Douglas Gordon Goody was widely regarded as the operational mastermind behind the robbery. Of Northern Irish descent, Goody was born in Putney, London, and at the time of the heist he lived with his mother in her flat. His sharp mind and knack for logistics made him a natural choice to assist Bruce Reynolds in planning the robbery's intricate details. Goody first made contact with the Ulsterman, a shadowy figure credited with providing crucial inside information about the Royal Mail train. This meeting, arranged by Brian Field in Finsbury Park, set the wheels in motion for the ambitious plan. By the early 1960s, Goody had become a core member of Buster Edwards' gang, gaining a reputation for his role in several successful robberies. His ability to organise complex operations and recruit skilled individuals cemented his position as one of the gang's linchpins. It was Goody who played a pivotal role in securing the gang's hideout at Leverslade Farm, ensuring the money could be divided and the gang could lay low after the robbery. Of all of the great train robbers, none carried quite the same aura of danger as Charles Frederick Charlie Wilson, known as the Silent Man. Born on the 30th of June 1932 in Battersea, South London, Wilson grew up in a working class household with his parents Bill and Mabel. From an early age, he spurned the modest, honest life his father lived, seeking instead the thrill and rewards of crime. Wilson's childhood companions read like an who's who of London's underworld: Jimmy Hussey, Tommy Wisby, Bruce Reynolds and Gordon Goody. Later he forged alliances with Ronald Buster Edwards and up-and-coming car thieves like Mickey Ball and Roy James, laying the foundation for the formidable network that would eventually pull off the Great Train Robbery. In 1948, Wilson was called up for national service, serving 2 years before returning to civilian life. By 1955, he'd married Patricia Pat Osborne, with whom he had 3 kids. Although he briefly worked in his indoors grocery shop, Wilson's real income came from a darker place. A thief through and through, he funneled his criminal earnings into shares in various gambling enterprises, blending the worlds of illegitimacy and business with ease. Throughout the 1950s, Wilson's criminal record grew, punctuated by short spells in jail for a range of offences. Yet rather than deter him, these experiences seemed to solidify his ambitions. By 1960, he teamed up with Bruce Reynolds, and the pair began plotting their ascent into the big league of organised crime. Wilson's role in the Great Train Robbery would be as treasurer and organiser. Calm, calculating and utterly ruthless, he managed the distribution of the stolen money with quiet efficiency that earned him both fear and respect. His reputation as the silent man stemmed not only from his ability to keep secrets, but from his imposing demeanour, an unspoken menace that made him one of the most dangerous members of the gang. Ronald, Buster Edwards, was in many ways the archetypal South London rogue, resourceful, charming and always on the lookout for the next opportunity. Born in Lambeth in 1932, Edwards was the son of a barman. Growing up amidst the hustle and bustle of a working class neighbourhood where life was tough and ingenuity often paved the way to survival. His early years were marked by the shadow of World War II, a time when the black market thrived and young men like Edwards saw crime as a way to get ahead in a society still rationing basics. After leaving school, Edwards took a job at a sausage factory, but his entrepreneurial streak soon got the better of him. Spotting an opportunity to profit, he began pilfering meat to sell on the black market, a bold move for someone so young, but one that would set the tone for the rest of his life. His national service in the RAF did little to curb his criminal tendencies. Instead, it provided him with new opportunities to steal, this time cigarettes, which landed him in trouble with the authorities. Returning to South London after his stint in the RAF, Edwards fully embraced the life of a professional criminal. He set up and ran a drinking club, a common front for underworld activity, and began mingling with the likes of Bruce Reynolds, Charlie Wilson and other figures who would later play pivotal roles in the Great Train Robbery. By this time, Edwards had cemented his reputation as a reliable operator with a sharp mind for organisation and a flair for taking calculated risks. In 1952, Edwards married June Rose, and the couple had a daughter called Nikki. Despite his life of crime, Edwards was known to be a devoted family man, fiercely protective of his wife and daughter. This duality, a ruthless criminal with a softer, more human side, made him a complex and intriguing figure. When the Great Train Robbery was conceived, Edwards was a natural fit for the team. His resourcefulness, connections and charm made him indispensable as an organiser, and his role in coordinating the robbery's logistics was key to its success. After the heist, Edwards became one of the most recognisable faces of the gang, his affable nature and almost roguish charm capturing the public's imagination. Brian Arthur Field was the consummate enigma of the Great Train Robbery, a man whose respectability as a solicitor's managing clerk masked a willingness to bend the rules, court danger and consort with criminals. Born on the 15th of December 1934, Field's life began with rejection as he was put up for adoption shortly after birth. Despite this uncertain start, he demonstrated intelligence and resilience, qualities that would later make him a key figure in the heist. Field's early adulthood was shaped by his time in the Royal Army Service Corps, where he served during the Korean War. Though the Service Corps was primarily responsible for transport and logistics, its soldiers were trained combat personnel, and Field's military service owned his discipline and organisational skills. Upon his discharge, Field's record was marked with a very good character, but his reputation for reliability and trustworthiness would soon take on a much darker dimension. After leaving the military, Field found his way into the legal profession, working as a managing clerk for John Wheater & Co. On the surface, Field appeared to be a success story, living a life that belied his relatively junior role at the firm. At just 28 years old, he owned an house named Cadbury, a portmanteau of him and his wife Corinne's name, in the affluent area of Whitchurch Hill in Oxfordshire, he drove a gleaming new Jag and carried himself with the confidence of a man destined for success. In stark contrast, his employer, John Wheater, owned a battered old Ford and lived in far more modest surroundings. Field's apparent prosperity, however, had less to do with work and more to do with his willingness to pass information on to thieves like Buster Edwards and Gordon Goody. He had a knack for identifying opportunities, often tipping off criminal powers about wealthy clients with valuable possessions in their country homes. On one occasion, he even described the layout and contents of a house near Weybridge, where his wife had once been employed as a nanny. Field's connection to the criminal underworld deepened when he met Gordon Goody at a Soho nightclub and defended Buster Edwards after the latter was caught with a stolen car. Field also represented Goody after the infamous airport job in November 1962, a robbery which acted as a trial run for the Great Train Robbery. By this time, Field had firmly positioned himself as the trusted go-between for the underworld and the legal system, deftly walking the line between respectability and criminality. Of all of the shadowy figures linked to the Great Train Robbery, none is as elusive or as enigmatic as the Ulsterman. While his true identity remains the subject of speculation, his alleged role in the crime was pivotal. He was the man who provided the critical inside information about the train schedule, the movements of the Royal Mail coaches, and the positioning of the staff on board. Without him, the meticulously planned heist may never have been possible. In 2014, Gordon Goody identified the Ulsterman as Patrick McKenna, a 43-year-old postal worker originally from Belfast who was living in Salford. At the time of the crime, according to Goody, McKenna he'd met 4 times in 1963 to discuss the details of the Royal Mail train's operation. Despite the crucial nature of these meetings, Goody claimed he only learned McKenna's name when he happened to see it written inside a spectacle case McKenna had left behind. McKenna's involvement was and remains a contentious claim. His background as a postal worker would have given him access to insider knowledge. He had no known criminal record or associations, making him an unlikely accomplice. Adding to the mystery is an alternative theory suggesting that the Ulsterman was not McKenna at all, but Sammy Ulsterman, also known as an associate of some of the convicted robbers. Ulsterman's connection to the criminal world and the South West gang lends this theory certain plausibility. It's been argued that the nickname, the Ulsterman, may have arisen from a simple mishearing of Ulsterman's surname. However, Ulsterman's precise role in the robbery, if any, has never been definitively established, and he remains a peripheral figure in the saga. What makes the Ulsterman such an enduring enigma is the lack of conclusive evidence. If McKenna truly was the informant, why would a man with no criminal past risk everything for a share of stolen money? And if Ulsterman or another associate filled this role, why has their identity been obscured for so long? Goody's claim, made decades after the robbery, raises questions about memory, motive and credibility. Could he have mistaken McKenna for someone else? Or was the revelation an attempt to add a final twist to an already legendary crime? Whoever the Ulsterman was, his contribution to the Great Train Robbery is beyond doubt. The gang's ability to intercept and exploit such precise logistical details required an insider with an intimate understanding of Royal Mail operations. Without this knowledge, the robbery may never have come to fruition, and the legend of the heist may have just remained that, a plain scrawl on paper, unexecuted and forgotten. William Gerald Bowles' involvement in the Great Train Robbery saga is a tragic tale of misjudgment and misfortune. Bowl, a quiet man with no prior connection to the criminal world, found himself caught up in the aftermath of one of Britain's most notorious crimes. His role was limited to assisting Roger Caudry after the robbery, a fact that made him no different from the many other accomplices of the robbers during their escape. Yet for reasons that remain unclear, Bowl was singled out and convicted of one of the actual robbers. Leonard Field was a minor figure in the robbery, but his role would have lasting consequences for his life. A Londoner with no direct involvement in the heist itself, Field's part was limited to facilitating the purchase of Everstay Farm, the hideout where the gang were laid low after the robbery. He paid the £5,000 deposit for the property, believing the plan was to hijack a lorry filled with cigarettes, a much less audacious crime. In return, he was promised £12,000, a significant sum for what seemed like a minimal risk. John Denby Wheater was a solicitor with a respectable career, or so it seemed. As the employer of Brian Field, Wheater became embroiled in the robbery through his subordinate's dealings with the gang. Though his exact level of knowledge about the crime is unclear, Wheater found himself implicated in the legal and logistical side of the heist. These accomplices, though not central to the heist itself, played vital roles in supporting or facilitating the operation. Their varied fates highlight the far-reaching implications of the Great Train Robbery and how it ensnared individuals from all walks of life. By mid-1963, the pieces was in place. Bruce Reynolds had assembled a team of seasoned criminals, men who were masters of their craft, unafraid to take risks but disciplined enough to follow orders. It was in these months of preparation that bonds were forged, egos was tempered, and the game became something more, a unit with a singular focus. But even with the knowledge of the train's route, the crash it carried, the potential prize waiting to be claimed, there was still one question left unanswered. How? How could they stop a train in the middle of the night? Overpowered a crew had escaped with millions without being caught. It was a challenge unlike anything any of them had faced before, and the answer would demand ingenuity, precision and daring on an unprecedented scale. And so the stage was set. A gang of criminals, united by ambition, armed with insider knowledge, and led by a man who dared to dream bigger than anyone else. The Great Train Robbery was no longer an idea, it was a plan in motion. In the next episode, we'll delve into how that plan took shape. We'll follow the gang as they meticulously prepared for the heist of a lifetime, laying the groundwork for what would become one of the most infamous crimes in British history. From scouting the railway to acquiring the tools of the trade, every detail was considered. Join me as we explore the nerve, the cunning, and the sheer audacity that made it all possible.